So when we look at the reasons for the digital transformations and why companies go through them, one would be to change your company's business model. That's a common reason why companies go through transformations. And when we say changing the company's business model, we might be talking about anything from e-commerce, for example, and allowing employees to interact and engage with you. Allowing customers to interact and engage with you electronically over the internet versus having to call or email or fax orders to you. Not to say you're going to get rid of those personal touch points, but a lot of companies are moving that direction. For example, working with a company that provides auto parts. It's one of a few companies we're working with now that provides auto parts, and they're really struggling with how do we use technology to just completely transform the customer experience to where they're buying from us electronically online versus the old school way of sending in emails or calling a sales rep. And so that's part of what our directive is as part of our evaluation and implementation is how can we use technology to completely change the business model, not just automate the way they process orders or the way they track inventory or the way they run their financials. That's all good, but they're looking for something more than that. They're looking for us to help completely change the business model, completely change the customer experience, and that's a completely different mindset than just going into your kind of vanilla, historic, traditional ERP selection and implementation. The second reason for digital transformation is to enable process reengineering, and we have a whole separate webinar series and a whole service offering devoted just to business process reengineering, so I could easily spend the whole hour talking about that one topic, but I won't. But I invite you to, if you'd like, you can always find that on demand on our YouTube page or on our website. You can find some of the webinars, on-demand webinars we've done for process reengineering. But the whole point there is, again, we're focused on how can we completely optimize and improve our business processes rather than making those incremental improvements that just simply automate or provide a new tool for doing the same things. So it's really a matter of kind of challenging what is it that we need to do, how can we do this better, and what are the ways that we can leverage technology to make us completely re-engineer our business processes. And as a side note to that as well, if you are going to focus on digital transformation and the business process re-engineering that goes along with it, you have to kind of change your mindset on what a implementation plan typically looks like. Typically, the process and requirements definition phase wouldn't be super extensive in terms of taking months or extensive amount of time. But when you're talking digital transformation and you're going into a project knowing that that's what you want to do, you have to kind of challenge the status quo or the common way of ERP vendors wanting to do implementations and really take your time up front to re-engineer and design those business processes first, then define as you're going which technologies can best enable that, and then the technology rather than just going out and finding the software via high-level requirements gathering and then defining the processes later. You want to do more of that business process re-engineering up front. Otherwise, you're highly likely to just simply automate what you've already been doing. So enabling process re-engineering is an important one, and then also materially changing products and how they're delivered. I gave you the example of the auto parts supplier that was looking for a way to transform the customer experience. In their case, they weren't really changing their product itself, but they were changing the way they were providing that experience to the customer. But there are cases, especially in the services industry or technology industry, where technology can affect the way you change your product or in the way you manage your products and how you deliver them to customers. Certainly, even manufacturers that we work with can affect the way they change and manage their products through product lifecycle management and other technologies that may or may not be part of your core ERP system. And then finally, another reason for digital transformation is to leverage the flexibility and integration of modern technologies. So again, it's a matter of not necessarily thinking, hey, I'm a big company, I'm a big global Fortune 1000 company or multi-billion-dollar company, whatever it is, so I have two options. I have either SAP or Oracle. And that's kind of, when I started my career, that was how the landscape was. When you're a big Fortune 1000 company, you had SAP or Oracle, and over the years, maybe you start to consider Microsoft Dynamics. 10 years ago, Dynamics started to become a viable option. In more recent years, you have Infor and some of the others that are kind of considered tier 1 or upper tier 2. But still, even now, with more options in the ERP space, you don't have to choose just one ERP system. And choosing multiple systems isn't a negative thing like it used to be. There's certainly pros and cons and trade-offs for either option or scenario, but you definitely have a lot more options now in terms of how you can integrate different systems and how you can use technology to be flexible. And just quite candidly, traditional single ERP systems aren't the most flexible. Flexibility isn't generally a strength of single ERP systems, but best of breed generally gives you a little bit more flexibility. So when you're looking at digital transformation, you're generally, you may still want to look at, in a best case scenario, having one ERP system, but you're more likely going to end up with maybe a core ERP system and then a series of systems that tie into that core ERP system.